June 25th, and we will be featuring the Motor City Pipes and Drums. So if you are a bagpipe aficionado or you just like outdoor concerts, we hope you would come out and come to our concert on June 25th at Martin Road Park. And with that, thank you very much. Pleasant evening.
Thanks, Tim.
Mayor and Council, my name is Harry Taylor, and I'm going to talk about the community aspects of our musical organizations, Ferndale Community Concert Band and other organizations, and how they relate to the community. So I got married in 1971, and my wife, Susan Erin Taylor, and I moved into an upper flat at 843 St. Louis. That's behind the cemetery. We were in walking distance of Paperbacks Unlimited. We loved that place. It was fabulous. And we also loved going to the Independent Movie Theater at Woodward and just north of 9 Mile. That's where we saw Harold and Maude, a double feature with Jimmy Cagney and Yankee Doodle Dandy and Strawberry Blonde. Then it turned into a porn theater, which launched the career of L. Brooks Patterson. No, he did not star with Stormy Daniels. Had nothing to do with that. He launched his political career. And then it transformed into a performance space. So we've been in the area for a while. There are now marijuana shops in Pleasant Ridge and Ferndale. And earlier on, well, I have a vague memory of that. I'm not real sure about the marijuana thing. The guy who was our paper boy when we moved to Pleasant Ridge in 1977 is now playing first trombone next to me in the Ferndale Community Concert Band. The guy who's playing third trombone, his parents weren't born when I got my first trombone. I spent 3 years as an Army musician. Tim is also a vet, and we have a number of other veterans in the band. The group I'm leading, Tailor Made Jazz, is the offspring of the Ferndale Community Concert Band. We're the younger sibling of the big band, the M1 Jazz Collective, which you may have seen at the Dream Cruise. Both groups are out of the jazz traditions of the 30s and 40s. Tailor Made Jazz stands on the shoulders of Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie and the strong legacy of improvisation that carried on through Miles Davis, who played with both those guys, and further through Art Blakey and the Jazz Messenger, right up to the recently departed Wayne Shorter, who worked with both Miles and Blakey. Tim already mentioned upcoming performances. We also are available for whatever you got, and we do requests. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to seeing you at 3 p.m. March 26th at Ferndale High School. Be there, or, well, you can finish that for yourself.
Thanks, Harry. Is there anybody else who would like to make comments this evening? Or can call to audience. All right, seeing no hand raisers, I'm going to move on and go to our public hearing. We have one public hearing tonight. It is for the MDNR grant application for Martin Road Park, and we have 4 steps to our public hearings. We have a staff presentation. Usually there's an applicant associated with that presentation, but I don't think we have one tonight. I think it's just straight up Parks Department. I open it up for public comment, and then questions from council, and then we go into motion and discuss the item. So with that, Emmanuel, thanks for being here.
No problem, no problem. Thank you for having me. Good evening to everybody. I hope that everybody's doing well. I hope that everybody remembers that summer camp registration opens on April 3rd. And I'm going to be presenting our MDNR applications for 2023 during this public hearing. So the projects that we have in mind are the same projects that we applied for last year but we did not receive. We revamped them a little bit to make them a little more appealing. And the bottom line is we need to apply for these projects because there are some serious things that we need to address and some amenities that we would like to have available to the community. The first project is the Martin Road Outdoor Recreation Support Facility, which we'll go through a little bit later, that will enable us to do a number of different things with the department. And the second project is play equipment for Martin Road, in addition to stormwater mitigation, which we'll get into the pictures that I have to show you that will show you the great need for that at Martin Road Park. So here's the scope for the outdoor recreation facility. If you see, I don't know if people at home can see the mouse on the screen, but the blackened area here is the proposed site of the facility. And the scope of work for this particular project involves demoing the current accessory building, which is an old storage shed that is defunct and no longer used. Site preparation, construction of the facility, some landscaping, some utility work, walking path connections to connect it to the existing trailway, and some additional amenities that include picnic tables and trash and recycling bins. The facility that sits at Vlade Park serves as a template for what we're trying to construct here. The building components for this particular facility include a concession stand, additional restrooms, additional facility storage, indoor-outdoor pavilion community space, limited office space, and additional lighting. The reasons for many of these components, the concession stand will enable us to offer a concessions program and bring in some additional income to the city, and also keep people out at the parks for a longer amount of time without them needing to leave the park to go get food or anything like that. The additional restrooms are necessary components for our splash pad, which can hold a max capacity of 280, but it cannot do that without the additional restroom space. So we've been supplementing that with porta-johns that we sit out there during those periods. But we'd like to have something in place that will be a little more permanent. The facility storage will enable us to get our equipment lending program off the ground. With that, we would like to loan out equipment like basketballs, sleds, snowshoes, different thing that the community can use in the park, which it goes along with keeping people in the parks for longer without them needing to go home and get anything. The limited office spaces for staff to be able to have a larger presence out at the park and to be able to oversee operations, especially with the splash pad that's there right now. There's a lot of people that visit the park on a regular basis, so we want to have a more regular presence out there to mitigate any issues or anything that happens. And the additional lighting is a safety thing. For this application, we are planning to apply to 2 different sources for MDNR funding. MDNR has 3 available pots, but the 2 that we have listed here, Trust Fund Grant and the Land and Water Conservation Fund, fit this particular project better than the other one. The reason that the amounts for these 2 applications are different is because for Trust Fund, we are able to utilize federal funding as a match source for our requirements under that particular grant program, which we are not able to do for Land and Water. We have already secured some funding for HUD housing to be able to help facilitate or to help construct this facility. So we'd be able to utilize that for a trust fund, which is why we're asking for more in that particular one. But we cannot do that in Land and Water. And the percentages under MDNR, unlike a lot of other places that we secure funding from, MDNR, rather than calculating their matches as a percentage of the amount requested, they calculate theirs as a percentage of the total project cost, which is why we have the total project amount there as $600,000 with the match being $300,000, meaning that we would be going out to receive $300,000 from MDNR, not the $600,000 total. For the play equipment, we are planning on implementing some ADA accessible play equipment at Martin Road Park, and we're also planning on installing systems to mitigate some of the stormwater runoff that continually pools up there after rain events. This includes partial demo of outdated play equipment, installation of new play equipment, installation of stormwater mitigation systems, landscaping, walking path connections, and additional amenities. The stormwater issues at Martin Road Park is one of the big challenges in what we're trying to address with this grant. If you look at the pictures up here, if you remember a few weeks ago when the power first went out on a large scale, and because we had that significant rain event that took place, these pictures were taken a whole week after that event. And there was no additional rain that took place in between that time. So whenever there's any large rain events like that, you can see the amenities, including the playgrounds, the site of the old hockey rink, this trail that runs along the soccer field that lay at the northwest section of the park, and this other section outside of the baseball diamond. They remain flooded for prolonged periods of time, to the point where we can't utilize them or we can't program around them. So we're hoping to be able to install different systems, including bioswales, including rain gardens, some field gradings, that will help mitigate these issues. And for this one, this is just an example of some of the play equipment that we're looking at. We're trying to install more ADA accessible equipment out at the park. Currently, I don't think there's anything out there that is ADA accessible, so that'll be the first installation at Martin Road Park that will serve that purpose. For this particular project, we are applying for the Recreation Passport Grant and the Trust Fund Grant. And we have lowered the percentage matches for those because for the Trust Fund, you receive points for additional points for your application if you go up to 50%, between 25 and 50%. We have ours set at 30% right now. Recreation Passport has a hard 25% that we need to match. And again, that's of the total project cost and not of the amount that we're requesting. And here's a quick timeline. All of the grants are due on April 1st before initial scores and early withdrawal periods open up in September. The grant awards are typically announced sometime in December, and the grant agreement would be, if we award it, would be executed in July of 2024 before construction would begin in fall of 2024. And that is all I have.
Thank you. All right, this is a public hearing, and I'm going to open it up for public comment. If anybody would like to comment on the grant application for Martin Road Park. Is there anybody here who would like to make comments on this grant application? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close public comment and bring it back to City Council for asking questions of staff. Anybody like to start? Anybody have questions? This has been in process for a long time. And I just want to say I appreciate how hard our parks team works to find grant money for our parks investments to augment it. I did, I assume that we do have the money for the match.
Through the chair, we do have the money for the match via the HUD earmark grant that we received through Congressman Levin's office last
Okay, that
year.
can serve as match?
That can serve as match, and it's for this.
Okay,
We also are going out for additional grants that will be able to serve as a match as well.
okay, great.
Oh, and any work that's done by DPW or in-house also contributes toward that match as well. So we're trying to minimize our impact on the general fund as
Okay,
much as
so
possible.
in-kind match is possible as well?
Yes.
Okay,
The long-term construction funding is still a discussion
right,
beyond the grants if awarded
okay,
for the task force report.
yeah, for the task force, right, okay. All right then. We need a motion to proceed.
Actually, Mayor, we don't need to.
Oh, sorry.
This is a unique situation in that.
Sorry,
the,
I just,
Land and Water Conservation Fund requires that we have a
Public hearing.
public hearing, even though it's just a submission of an application.
we don't need to support anything else, this is it?
Not until
No,
next
I
council session.
asked legal
Not
counsel.
at this point. Through your chair, not at this point.
Feels
Yeah.
odd to me, but all right. I'm
We'll
going
have
with the legal
resolutions.
counsel.
I'm sorry. We'll have resolutions on the next council session.
Okay, so the public hearing first and then the resolutions come next?
Yep.
Okay, all right, well then, there is no vote on this, but there will be next time. Thank you. All right, that concludes public hearing, and I'm moving on to consent agenda, and I will read it's in entirety. All right, 7A, approval of the February 27, 2023 meeting minutes. 7B, approval of the lead cleanup and bullet trap maintenance in the police station pistol range by Best Technology Systems for $10,085. 7C, approval of a special event permit for Ferndale Pride to be held on Saturday, June 3rd, 2022. 7D, approval of 5-year plan maintenance, safety inspection, and on-call service for 2 elevators at the DOT by Otis Elevator Company for a cost of $6,900 annually. 7E, approval of field measurement and CAD drawings for Department of Public Works main yard by Hubble, Roth, and Clark for $7,500. 7F, approval to purchase 3 light poles for 9 Mile Road from Madison Electric for $16,637.64. 7G, approval to renew annual software agreement ESRI GIS services in the amount of $4,400 to be paid from account number 592000818. 7H, approval to direct that a public hearing be scheduled for Monday, March 27, 2023 at 7 p.m. regarding the non-renewal of Class C liquor licenses and have the city attorney's office prepare and have serviced appropriate legal notice for the scheduled hearing to any establishments that are not in compliance with the provisions of the Ferndale City Council's resolution adopted by February 4th, 2019. 7I, approval of the special event permit for Gravity Art Fair and Skate Park contest to be held on Saturday, June 10th, 2023. 7J, approval to appoint Mayor Melanie Piana to the Liquor License Review Committee in accordance with the Ferndale City Council's resolution adopted on August 10th, 2015. 7K, approval of resolution recognizing the life of Gene Spang. 7L, approval of the memorandum of understanding between the City of Ferndale Police Department and Oakland County Sheriff's Office for the team and distribution of high-intensity drug trafficking areas grant funds. 7M, approval of bills and payrolls as submitted by the Finance Director and subject to review by the Council Finance Committee. What is the desire of council?
Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Support.
Moved by Leaks May and supported by Polika.
Leaks May,
Yes.
Polika,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Piana.
Yes. All right, folks, we're on to our regular agenda. And it is one item tonight, and it is 8A, approval to sign contract for 235031 with the Michigan Department of Transportation for the Pinecrest Drive Sidewalk Project. And Dan from DTW will present this tonight.
Hey, good evening tonight, Mayor and Council. So tonight, we are here to discuss the funding agreement for a sidewalk project along the west side of Pinecrest from 8 Mile to the high school. So this is a big gap in our sidewalk system currently in the city of Ferndale. Right now, that section of Pinecrest only has sidewalk on the east side of the road. So it does add, for those students that travel that way, 1 or potentially 2 street crossings that we could eliminate with the installation of this sidewalk. So in 2021, we did seek out and apply for grant funding to do this project. Right now, we are working through the progress, or the process with MDOT. So when we originally applied for the funding on this project, and let me bring it up here to show you what we're talking about. You can see the white, almost looks like checkers going along. This is the proposed sidewalk installation on the west side of Pinecrest. We're snaking around all the trees that we can in order to keep those larger trees over there. And then we'll come to the south end of the parking lot. And then eventually here at Marshfield is where we'll be installing an actual crosswalk. And then there's some more work that'll kind of take place over here to make a nice smooth transition for those students as they come across the crosswalk. So we did work with the schools in terms of developing this project, getting their input, how they would like to see things. So we, in short, we got approved. So now we're at the point where we need to approve and sign the funding and maintenance agreement with Michigan Department of Transportation. So in 2021, when we originally put together the cost estimate for this project, we estimated this project to cost $161,000, and the city share of that project would have been $32,000, with the remaining $128,000 funded with federal funds. Due to the increases in construction costs that we've seen over the past few years, our cost estimate did not do a very good job at keeping up with inflation and material costs. MDOT did receive bids for this project on March 3rd. The low bid for this project, which there was only 2 bids, the low bid was $225,000. Because it was 110% over the engineer's cost estimate, which roughly equates to $65,000. Ferndale's total share of the project would be $105,000. We would be required to cover that overage, but with this being a significant gap, the additional safety that it adds for the users of the sidewalk, future sidewalk, we could allocate dollars that we will be receiving back through Oakland County's local road improvement program reimbursement that we received this fiscal year. Allocate those funds to offset that $65,000 increase that we would be seeing, in addition to a little bit of fund balance in order to actually get the project done. So tonight it's to present that funding agreement. You will notice in that agreement the dollars in that agreement are reflected upon the actual funding application that we submitted in 2021, not the current dollars as we see it on the bids that were received last week. And at that, I'll take questions.
I'll open up for council. Is there any questions for council?
Through the chair, I'm actually having a sidebar with our legal counsel because the suggested action still has the $32,000 amount. But given the information you just shared, it sounds like the request is really $105,000.
Correct.
Okay. Would all of that come out of major roads and
Correct.
capital outlay?
Yes.
Okay, because the funds that you mentioned about Oakland County are going into that account?
Yes.
Excellent, okay.
And if I could, Your Honor, just ask a question. Through the chair, the proposed exhibit in the agreement has to still be modified based on the higher bid amount. Is that correct?
So what we will have to do, that number doesn't have to change based on MDOT since it's their cost estimates as it relates to our actual funding application. But what we will have to do is in writing submit to MDOT that we do accept the bid as it was bid with the overage, and that the city of Ferndale will be responsible of covering the additional expense on our side for the gap as it relates to what we submitted in the funding application for our share versus what the overage is on the bid.
Okay.
And just to confirm that none of these funds are being requested out of the general fund. It's being requested out of the major roads and capital outlay.
Through the chair, yeah, and I can do you one further. Actually, Oakland County reimbursed us owed monies of $283,000. And so that was applied to the fund balance for major roads because it's restricted for major roads purposes. And so that reimbursement will be applied to this overage. It was unanticipated.
Okay. That's how you're covering the unanticipated gap.
Thank you, Dave Coulter.
Yep.
I made through the chair. So the road that is proposed to be built on the west side, that is going to look like sidewalk, excuse me, not road. But that's kind of where I'm leading. Is it going to look like the road looks currently leading up to that sidewalk where there's the delineators and everything to kind of break it off?
So everything from curb to curb, everything will remain the same, other than at the crosswalk at Marshfield, because there we will put in a new crosswalk with signs, signals, and pavement markings. Everything else will remain the same. It's really what we're doing is we're installing a new sidewalk. The look will be the most different, I guess, up around here along the sidewalk, because we will have to install
You mean by the school park?
By the, yeah, up by the school along the sidewalk, it will look the most difference because we have to install a retaining wall because of the grade. So we'll slope the sidewalk down so it can come to a good grade with the road, maintain ADA compliance, and then make a ramp coming up here to connect in instead of pushing students directly across the driveway aprons over there. We talked that one out with the schools. That's what they really liked in terms of this project. It's not shown up on this set of plans, but in terms of the safest spot to push students off, we're going to push them back into the parking lot where they can cross over there versus the entrances and exits over here.
Well, if I may continue through the chair. So I just wanted to say that every morning as well, not every morning, but the mornings I do drive my child to school, I do see a lot of students utilizing the bike lane to kind of get to school on their bikes and walking in that lane and being protected by the delineators. And I'm really pleased that it's going to be on the opposite side as well, that there'll be some safety features for students coming from the south side of Woodward. It's 8 Mile, yes, thank you. Getting confused. But I'm really pleased with that. I was really pleased to see that. And I think you had some involvement in that, Mayor?
Actually, I give credit to our city manager for finding this grant money. This has been a long, outstanding equity issue that the school district has brought to the attention of council, and we've been very supportive to try to find solutions to knit this sidewalk back together or complete it, which should have been completed decades ago but never was. So I just want to say thank you for Joe for finding the MDOT grant in which to apply for. We got notice last year that we got the grant, and so it just has taken a year to actually get to a construction standpoint. When would construction start?
We would start construction after school is done for the season.
Okay, so sometime in June.
Yeah.
Okay.
And through the chair, just piggybacking off of that, do you have an estimate as to the period of time it'll take to complete it?
We'll probably be performing work out there 6 to 8 weeks, give or take, for weather.
Sure.
But it won't be, a very long project, pending no major delays. For the most part, we're just going to be excavating, getting grade, and pouring new sidewalk. Kind of the most work is going to take place next to the crosswalk, where we do have to remove a fair amount of earth, get the retaining wall installed and stuff like that. So we'll be working with the school districts, keeping them informed, maintaining traffic as much as possible throughout the event or throughout the project. And, hopefully, as everything goes smoothly, the students will be able to utilize the crosswalk on the first day of school.
And will there be much restriction of use of Pinecrest during that time period? I mean, obviously the crosswalk will involve some restriction, but most of it is sidewalk work. Will that require restriction of the southbound?
From time to time, we will take the southbound lane. Contractors are required to use traffic control devices while that work is going on. Or if it's not the actual travel lane, we may have to take the bike lane from time to time as well. It is a pretty big bike lane on the south side of Pinecrest, so enough to fit at least pickup trucks and stuff like that, and then the bulk of the equipment that'll live on the right-of-way itself.
And then, if I may, I want to channel Councilman Mikulski, who posed some questions in email about trees. Can you talk about the number of trees that need removed and what you've already talked about preserving trees, but I do know that some need to be removed.
Yes, we will be needing to remove, you see a circle here and a circle here. Because we don't have the length in order to get nice curvature of the sidewalk, we will be removing 2 trees right here and right here, for the installation of the sidewalk. All the trees to the north end of the property between here and the school, we will be going around those.
And who owns that property there?
This property, outside of the city right away, not sure who exactly owns this property right now, but Consumers uses it as a staging yard.
Okay, but the sidewalk area is the right-of-way
Yes.
in which the city owns.
Mhm.
And is it that entire large green parcel, or is it just, I don't know how wide the right-of-way is on that parcel.
To be honest, I'm not sure. I would have to look that up on our
That's
parcel
okay.
map.
It looks like it's one continuous parcel, but I understand that it's not. Okay.
Through the chair. You bring up a good point, or you bring up a point. Well, I guess it's a good point. Historically, a property owner is responsible for paying the cost of a sidewalk and maintaining that cost. In front of my home, we call it the right-of-way, and as a homeowner, I'm responsible for maintaining that sidewalk, and when it's replaced, I pay the cost of replacing those flags. Why is it that this property owner isn't being forced to pay for the sidewalk being installed? Because it's no different if it's the right of way. Now, I understand it's 200 and some $1,000, and that's a lot to ask of one property owner. But going forward, who's going to be responsible for the ongoing improvements? For city property like City Hall, we're responsible, the taxpayers are responsible for replacing the pavers, the flags in front of City Hall, the city buildings, city parking lots, parks. That comes out of the general taxpayer fund. Is the city going to be responsible for repairing all of those over the years? Or because it's private property adjacent, is the property owner going to be responsible for paying for the replacement and repair of flags?
Through the chair, I'll buy Dan some time.
Yeah, through the chair, my recollection is the city charter provides that for any replacement of sidewalks after the city has initially placed them in and borne that cost, replacements to those flags are by charter required to be contributed to by the property owner, but not the initial installation.
Okay.
I will confirm that during the balance of the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And through the chair, just to add to that, as I understand this project, it would include both private property adjacent as well as school property adjacent. So I'm curious about the answer to that question as it relates to sidewalks in the right-of-way adjacent to schools.
Technically, the city owns
That property, I mean, we
the
don't,
parking lot.
we don't tax
Well,
the
that's
school.
that's another
Complexity?
question of whether or not it's school district property, which I'm not prepared to answer right now.
Yes. There's some interesting land swaps conducted in the 50s and 60s that don't make sense anymore, but the city owns the tennis courts and the parking lot
And part of the football field.
and part of the football field. So we've had friendly agreements with the school district, of course, to use those appropriately as a school property. So, but when it comes down to legal details like this, it all matters of who owns the property. Dan, I see a pensive response.
I was just going to say, my recollection is correct that the initial payment typically, as provided in the charter, is borne by the city.
Okay,
Now, it can, in certain circumstances, there can be a special assessment district created where the special assessment is levied on the adjacent properties where there's determined to be a benefit under a special assessment district created. But in the initial instance, council may bear that cost, and that appears to be what's proposed.
okay, excellent. All right, well, I'm very excited this is proceeding thank you, staff, for finding a way to fund the gap here of an important, long-standing project we've been trying to solve for years. So, with that, we need a motion to proceed.
I move to approve the contract 23-5034 with the Michigan Department of Transportation for the Pinecrest Drive Sidewalk Project for an estimated amount not to exceed $105,000. The expense to be charged to Major Roads Capital Outlay, account number 202-000-977, and to authorize the DPW director to sign contract documents.
Support.
Moved by Polika and supported by Leaks May.
Not to exceed.
Polika.
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
Piana.
Yes. All right, folks, that concludes our regular agenda, and we're off to call to council with updates from departments, led by our city manager. And I have a feeling you're starting with DPW.
I could start.
So we get no public say on this?
I'm sorry, we've just approved and moved on, and so that's, I'm sorry, there's no, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, we've moved on and voted. That is a no, thank you. All right,
Okay, the only comment that I have tonight is,
hang on, one of our discourse with dignity is not shouting from the audience, and we ask you to adhere to that. Okay, that's good. I just wanted to say that. Please adhere to our discourse with dignity guidelines. All right, Dan.
so the one big update we have right now is it is almost that time of the year again where Michigan State Flower comes out, orange, about 48 inches tall, has reflective strips on it, and that will be coming to Woodward. So tentatively, MDOT is looking to get back onto Woodward the week of March 20th. So traffic control devices will start coming back out. A single lane of traffic will be closed down, and then they will be working on some nightly closures where they will see potentially 2 lanes closed and 3 lanes closed if they need some additional room to make sure that both motorists and those out there working are safe. So if you go to ferndalemoves.com and under recent projects, and go to Woodward Moves 2022, any and everything you really need to see as it relates to what the project entails, a draft of what the project is actually going to look like when it's all said and done, where we're doing work at, updates to what's going on, some nice videos, FAQs, and so on. This page will be updated as the project goes on. You can also request updates on the project as, you know, we receive those updates from MDOT. We will be pushing them out on here. And then project schedule, this still needs a little bit of updating since MDOT sprung this one on pretty quick. But you can sign up for email and text alerts as it relates to the project. So lean over with the DDA. We'll be keeping folks up to date as much as possible as we work through this project. So right now, everyone can anticipate some form of construction taking place on Woodward from the end of March into the fall, probably October or so, as they work to get this project all wrapped up. So we're still waiting a few weeks to get started on our projects. We might wait till April is what it's looking like. But plan on construction barrels and traffic control devices going up on Woodward the week of March 30th, or 20th, I'm sorry. That's all I have. Oh, and then residents also need to just wait until the week of April 3rd, the first full week of April, to place out curbside yard waste.
Thank you, Dan.
So if I may through the chair, regarding branches and things that people cut down or kind of fell down during the storms. Is that something that we probably should wait until yard waste time then now?
If the branches are bundled and wrapped with twine, yes. If the branches are placed out to the curb, no longer than roughly 8-foot sections, all the, I guess, nice ends, trunk ends pointed towards the curb, those can go out all year long on your collection day.
So just picture, and the reason why I'm asking is because my ex-spouse and my children happened to chop down quite a few branches in the backyard, and I have what looks to be like a big maze or dome in my yard with all these branches. So how would that be left to be put in the
Typically,
yard?
that's a little bit above and beyond
It's like,
what our contract is with our brush chipper, but we have been working between our crews and their crews on outside of the normal course of business, trying to knock down some of those piles, so they're not left out there. So those piles can stay at the curb, and as we probably, hopefully, within the next week or two, we'll get the bulk of that all cleaned up for folks.
good to know.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Dan, and thanks for changing the Emmanuel pattern. You're number 2 this week, Emmanuel.
I feel slighted. Just a couple quick updates from Parks and Recreation. The first one is actually about summer camp. For real, it's opening registration on April 3rd. The camp information will be posted to our registration site next Monday, the 20th, which you'll be able to see the available field trips that we have planned and the different activities that we have planned. You'll be able to add those to your wish list and sign up for it when it opens up on April 3rd. The cost for this camp will be $155 per session. We are running 9 weeks of sessions, from June 20th until April 18th. And we host a maximum capacity of 50 campers per session. So if you're not able to get into that initial 50 camper spot, just make sure that you sign up on the waiting list, and we'll contact you in case the spot does open up. And if anybody has any questions, they can contact me at the Parks and Recreation Department at 248-544-6767. My extension is 505. Thanks. And wow, I just did a whole voicemail just then. The other item that I have is Extravaganza, which will be the Easter egg hunt event that will take place on April 1st. It'll be at 3 different city parks this year. The first one will be Garbutt Park at 1 o'clock. The second one will be Geary Park, which will be at 1:30, and the last one will be Martin Road Park at 2 o'clock. And at the last one, you'll get the opportunity to roast some s'mores, meet the Easter Bunny, take pictures with the Easter Bunny and all that. It's completely free to the public. It's available to anybody that wants to attend. If you get an egg that has a ticket inside of it, you get to bring it over to us to get a lovely Easter basket, and everything else you can take home with you. So again, any questions about that, just contact us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Emmanuel. Next, we have our Assistant City Manager, Denise Woods-McSwain.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to officially announce the city's new civics education program we're titling Fern and Learn. Fern and Learn will be an 8-week-long civics education program beginning April 13th. And we'll be covering topics such as the election process, city communications and social media, DDA projects and plans, code enforcement, zero waste initiatives, and these will be interactive, hands-on, fun sessions, and participants will be able to meet department directors and other staff, and see what we all do on a day-to-day basis. So we sent out communications regarding Fern and Learn last month, and these were in the city newsletter as well as social media. We had 30 signups available, and all 30 of those spaces are taken up. So we're super excited to have our first cohort this spring. And those who've signed up can look out for an email from me within the next week or so with more information.
Thank you, Denisha. Building on that, I will also provide an update on behalf of our Zero Waste Coordinator, Claire. The rain barrel information has been posted. We are actively recruiting for people in the community interested in taking advantage of a grant that she won on behalf of the city to deliver rain barrels. Kat, you look like you wanted to add to that.
No.
Oh, no,
Just
okay.
excited.
I mentioned Mayor Pro Tem Cap because she is a rep on the Ferndale Environmental Sustainability Commission, and they've been working closely with Claire to advertise this program. So we're looking forward to seeing that progress. If you're interested, go to ferndalemi.gov and look on the homepage, and you'll see a story about that in the news section. Also, just a reminder, the City Council will hold their 2024 budget workshop this Saturday in council chambers from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. It is a traditional public meeting, so it will be posted, and an agenda will be up by Thursday. And next. Oh, that's it. Dan started first, so I think that's all. Mayor, on to you.
All right, I'll start over with Councilman Polika tonight.
I have nothing this evening.
Great. I have a couple things to announce. I first wanted to acknowledge the passing of Jean Spang. If you did not know her, she was a longtime resident, served on the Historical Museum's board, and was a wealth of knowledge. And I just wanted to read the resolution that we approved during council consent agenda this evening. Jean was a lifelong resident of Ferndale and was a trusted historian of all things Ferndale. She graduated from Lincoln High School in 1956 and served as a librarian at the Wayne State University and as an editor for the Wayne State University Press. Jean's commitment and love for Ferndale was apparent by the time she spent volunteering as the editor for the Ferndale Historical Society. She even wrote several articles for their newsletter, The Crow's Nest. She had a reputation of being an expert of Ferndale's history and culture and was often relied upon for her extensive knowledge of our community. Jean is a credit to the community, and it is with heartfelt appreciation that we celebrate her achievement. And I'll make sure that this gets to her friends and family. One more announcement. The musical at the high school, if you didn't get a chance to see it this past weekend, it's called You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, and it will be open on Friday, 7:30, Saturday, 7:30, Sunday, 3 o'clock, which is the last show. Seniors and adults are $10, adults are $15. So if you have a moment this weekend, go out and support our students. And I believe that is it, Mayor. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
A couple of quick items. One, my husband and daughter saw the musical yesterday and endorsed going to see it. I took the day off. The SEMCOG has posted the water infrastructure policy document on their website for public comment. I happen to serve on the task force that helped develop the policy. That doesn't mean it's perfect. So if there's additional items that are missing or changes that you think should be made, please go to semcog.org and submit your comment. It will be voted upon at the General Assembly next Thursday, and I am also our SEMCOG delegate, so if you have feedback, submit it directly to SEMCOG to make sure it gets on the record, but if you want to reach out to me, you're welcome to email me as well if there's something you want to bring to my attention. And then third, just sort of building on the musical theme from folks who came to public comment today, the Spinners, which are a Motown group that started at Ferndale High School have been nominated for, I think, the 4th time to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They are not so far in the top candidates, but anyone can log on and vote. So I'm urging Ferndalians to support who I think would be the first Ferndalians inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, as far as I know. So just Google Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, look up how to vote. I think all you have to do is put in your email address and vote for Ferndale's own The Spinners.
Thank you. And finally, it's me. I just want to say I just came back from Harvard Kennedy School, completing my public leadership executive certificate, and my last class was on climate and energy, and really tough discussions. It was more of a global perspective, and how do we pay for decarbonization, what that cost is, and what is the cost not to decarbonize. But really, it just reinforced why our climate action planning is so critical, of having every city tackle, planning for climate mitigation, which is decarbonization. Setting a carbon neutral goal is important. Adaptation, which is where we are now, adapting to our infrastructure to deal with the heavier rainfalls and oncoming heat. But I left optimistic that our global leaders and the professionals who are in it day to day, whom I got to network with, are all doing it for the right reasons, so that we can still call the places we call home, home, because they're not underwater, they're not too hot to live, and the ice hasn't melted. So that's kind of where I'm wrapping up from last week. And then finally, I also announced that I am not running again for mayor. This will be concluding my 14 years at the end of this year of being in public service. I'll talk more about all my love for you over the next 6 months and as we near the end. But it has been one of the most rewarding and satisfying things I've ever done in my life, and contributed to my professional growth too, in my field of urban planning. So with that, I'll be looking to support great candidates. I tend to look at candidates who understand local government and that world, and we'll be looking for candidates who can uplift what this council has done, and the council before us who championed Ferndale's innovation and creativity going forward. So, and I'll be asking the same questions I was asked when I ran. Are you going to work hard? And they better say yes, and then demonstrate it. So I appreciate everybody's support over the years for me, and staff helping me be successful as a mayor, because mayors don't do this on their own. Council doesn't do this on their own. We rely on staff to move things forward, and which makes us look good. So I appreciate all of you. And so we'll talk more about this going forward, and I plan on having a party of some sorts, thanking my supporters over the years, but that's further down the road. With that, I am calling this meeting at 8:05. So have a good night, everybody.